I have to condense it because I only have 15 minutes. So I'm just going to go. If you have a question while I'm going, just unmute yourself and ask, and I can stop and answer your question. I'll try to get done quick enough so that I can answer questions towards the end of the 15 minutes. This is Calculus. I'm Mike Riedy. I've been teaching at Prospect for 29 years. I've been teaching calculus for 15 years. I've been teaching geometry ever since I started teaching at least 3 sections. And this year I teach geometry to freshmen and calculus to juniors and seniors. So a lot of your children I had as freshmen in geometry. So it's interesting to see the transition from freshman to junior or senior year. So let's start with basically some logistics of how things are going. I am pleasantly surprised how smoothly things are going. Now, it's not perfect. It's nowhere near where we'd like it to be. However, I've had very few problems with the technology. I've had very few problems with behavior. So the way my room is set up, I teach every day from my room. I'm set up like I Zoom with the kids, so I'm looking at my laptop. To my left is a table where I set up my iPad, and to my right is a giant 80-inch touchscreen TV that has a full onboard PC. So a lot of times I will share one of those screens with them, so they're seeing what I'm teaching on the board or on the iPad. And then I have Zoom in front of me so that I can see them and communicate with them while I'm doing all that fun stuff. So the technology is in place. I think it's the best we have to offer considering the current situation. I've had no problems with names being on Zoom. So I've asked a couple things from them. I've asked if they could put their picture on Zoom so that if their camera is off, I can still see who that is instead of a capital letter, which is what I normally get. I've asked them to make sure that their name that they want to be called is on Zoom, because sometimes their name is whatever, Billy or William, and he wants to be called John. So, and that gets very confusing. So if they just put it on the screen, I can look and see who everybody is. No problems with that. From what I can see, people have set up workspaces in their house to do school. People are getting out of bed. People are doing what they need to do. I realize it's still early and we might be in for a little bit of a downhill slide, but for now, things are going well. So that's, as far as the technology goes, that's great. Being juniors and seniors, they all know how to use the stuff that we've already been using, like Notability and Schoology and that kind of stuff. One of the problems that they're running into, however, is when we were not remote, a lot of them learned to take notes on the iPad. And the problem is they can't, a lot of them have told me at least, they can't Zoom and take notes on the iPad at the same time. It just doesn't work. And so we've talked and bounced ideas off of each other about, well, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? And most of them, in talking to them, have said that they've gone back to a traditional pencil and paper approach, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, that's how we all did it. They'll be fine. And they can still turn things in digitally by taking pictures and scanning them and things like that. So we've found workarounds for all those things. But like I said, many of them are just still figuring out what's going to work best for them. I don't require any specific technique. My goal is always whatever works best for them. So Susie might do something different than Johnny. As long as they're both getting the job done, I don't care what method they're using. Okay. Hold on, I'm looking for the chat here. In chat, I'm going to put my email address, which by now you should all know it's our first name dot our last name at d214.org, but just in case. And I'll also put my phone number. I'm never by my phone. I do have a phone here. I'm never by it. However, if you've called our numbers before, that is my number. So when you call and leave a message, it'll go right to my voicemail, and I will try to call you back within 24 hours. If there's something you want to chat about, you can send me an email. I'm very much a big fan of still old school phone conversations. I find emails impersonal, whatever. That just doesn't work for me. So I would rather talk on the phone. We can get, in a 5-minute phone conversation, we can get a lot more covered than the 35 emails that we bounce back and forth. Does that mean you shouldn't send me an email? Absolutely not. If it's something quick and clean, you know, Susie's not going to be in class because she's getting her braces off, just so you know. I mean, that should probably come from them as a junior and senior, but if there's something that quickly that you need to convey to me, But if problems arise and you want to talk, again, I have a preference to the phone. I do know how to work email. We can use email. It's just not my first choice. Let me stop for a second and see if you have any questions. This is awkward. Okay. Then I'm just going to keep going. I know many of you have heard horror stories about this course, and unfortunately, some of them are true. Statistically speaking, this is the second hardest AP test offered in the universe. I think the first one, the last time I saw some stats, the worst is Spanish. So we're close behind with number 2. So in order to get them prepared with what they need to do well on the AP test, I'm going to beat them up pretty bad. And they're going to stress at some point in time if they're not already stressed. In fact, they have their first assessment tomorrow, so they're probably pretty stressed right now. To compensate for that, we have adjusted our grading scale. And so a traditional grading scale, 90, 80, 70, 60, ours is 80, 70, 60, 50. So it gives them a 10% leeway there to compensate the grades for how much we're going to push them in here. I would like to make this all nice and fluffy, but I still, when push comes to shove, we still have that test in May to answer to. With that in mind, this is a hard thing that I ask of the kids, and I'm going to ask of you. The emphasis for this class should be not on their prospect grade. It should be on the AP test in the spring. So I have a system in place that I think over 15 years has proven pretty successful. If students buy into that system, I can guarantee they will do well. Now, does that mean I can guarantee they'll get a 5 on the AP test? Absolutely not. But I can pretty much guarantee they'll get at least a 3. But there's exceptions to every rule. Now, buying into that system means that the ultimate goal is the AP test in the spring. If the AP test is the focus, the prospect grade takes care of itself. Okay? And the bottom line is I'm the ultimate decider of the prospect grade. Okay? Does all of that make sense? Now, I know that none of you believe me, just like the kids. They don't care. They need to see their prospect grade. If that prospect grade is not this ideal value that they want it to be, they start freaking out. Everything will work out if they buy into the system. And they're still learning what this system is. Like, how does homework work? What are you expecting from us? What topics are we covering? So we're wrapping up with a pre-calculus review. And the problem with the pre-calculus review is kids come in with different skill levels. So depending on who their pre-calc teacher was, what order they covered it in, they all know different things about pre-calc, which they're supposed to know. The nice thing is, starting next week, we start calculus together and everybody starts from the same page. They're not expected to know anything about limits, derivatives, and integrals, which are the only 3 topics we cover in this class. So in general, students do better once we get out of this review stuff and get into the real calculus. Okay. As far as the test goes, some of you this might be the first time that your child is taking an AP test. The AP test costs $95 each. Registration for that starts at the end of June, end of June, holy smokes, end of September. September 30th through October 26th. They're $95 a piece. Now, as we progress through the year, students feel like they're getting overwhelmed. They feel like they don't want to take the AP test anymore because they just don't think they're going to do well. And my response is they should take it anyways. Okay, assuming that it's not a money issue, they have nothing to lose from taking the AP test. The worst that could happen is they get a 1 on the AP test. And the only people that see those grades are me, you, and them. If they get a poor score on the AP test and they're going into something in college, assuming they're going to college that requires math, almost every student I've had that scored poorly on the AP test after completing the year got to college and rocked calculus. Just did a phenomenal job on it. So there is no lose situation here. Okay. They take the AP test, they don't score well, they go on to college, they get a good grade in calculus. They do score well on the AP test. They go on to college, they take the next calculus level, they do great. They do well on the AP test and they decide, maybe I don't want to get pushed up to that next calculus level. I want to do something a little bit more manageable my first semester freshman year. That also works out. Okay. So even when things get dicey and they want to pull the ripcord and not take the AP test, I'm going to encourage them to stick with it and take that AP test, especially given the fact that the last 6 weeks of the course, we review the entire course all over again. So things that they may have struggled with in October will be brought back up in April, March, and even right before that AP test. Okay. Now questions. None of that could get a question out of any of you. Holy smokes, this is a rough group. I mentioned the stress. Study groups. We spend a lot of time in the first couple class periods getting to know people. They know almost everybody in the class, but some of them are still meeting new people. And I spend a lot of time helping them figure out who in this group can I work with and who in this group can't I work with. So they have their groups now that they're in for a couple weeks. And they've taken some ownership. They have names for the groups. And so when we go to breakout rooms, they're working with the same people for a while. That needs to continue as we move through the class. They need to find some study group, and it might be just a partner. It might be a group of 4 people. It might be a group of 10 people, but they need to find some people that they can work with. And sometimes that is getting together on Sunday night to study for the upcoming assessment. Sometimes that's getting together after school on Tuesday to complain about the class. Sometimes it is getting together to make a voodoo doll of Mr. Riedy so they can just sit and stab it all day long. Okay, whatever helps them. I find that students struggle way too much if they try to do this by themselves. And it doesn't have to be students from their class. I have a couple kids in class that have told me flat out, I know nobody in this room. All my friends are in Miss Helene's class. That's okay. Then form a study group with Miss Helene's class. We're teaching the same course. But they do need to find that support group in some way, shape, or form. Okay, I know there's something I forgot. I can't, off the top of my head, I think we're good to go. I'll ask once more just for giggles. Anybody have a question? Beautiful. Okay, you have my email address, you have my phone number. If you have any questions, problems, concerns, do not hesitate to reach out. Just like I've told the kids, a lot of problems can get solved by simple communication. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. I will, if you're interested and you'd like to watch this Zoom meeting again, I will make it available. It's more for people that aren't here, but if you want to see what you look like on Zoom, I will post that. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.